Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, depending on where you're coming from today. Welcome to the next edition of Voice of the Microsoft Partner. I want to say thank you, everybody, for joining today. This is going to be a fantastic event today. You know, we've been in AI now for about a year, right? And we came, I think, the last year we had like 2,500 attendees. Our first, like, what's going on with AI? And really, our discussion today is, after a year, what's next? How are we going to market? What are the considerations? What are we talking about, today in this AI world? What are we going to market with? And why? We're going to be talking about, some of the psychology behind customers. What are they looking for? And let me tell you, I got two amazing speakers today for us all. With that, just a couple rules of engagement. We really want to turn this into a networking call as well. So if you're interested, please go ahead and put in your name, your phone number, whatever you want to do, your contact information, your company, right? Your company and what you specialize in. Because I think that we have partners from all over the world joining this. We have over 600 on LinkedIn today. It's crazy, right? And about 50 here, from on our Teams event. So please put in your name, your contact information if you want to start networking. Go ahead and put that in the chat window. We are absolutely a big proponent of trying to help people make connections, together. So, on the agenda today, it's really just kind of our introduction here, and then we're, selling Copilot and AI to your customers. We're trying to unpack this. But let me go ahead and go into our very first thing that I want to let everybody know is we actually have a great giveaway today. It's a go bag that we're saying what happens when AI takes over, which I think is happening, right? What happens when it takes over, and what happens when Teledyne comes in and they make the next Terminator, and you need 3 days, in the woods to make sure that you can be okay. Today we're giving away an $800 value, actually courtesy of our specialist here, a Marine specialist from the Marines. Phil, you can undo your video if you'd like to do this. He spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I asked him, I said, hey, Phil, can you go ahead and help me curate something that would, as a person who served 3 tours of duty, what would you see inside your bag? So we're going to give this out today. It's a little bit better than a Surface computer because, hey, when AI takes over, that Surface computer isn't going to be worth, there's no energy, right? But you need to be able to live. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We'll be announcing it afterwards. So thanks so much, Phil, for helping us out with that. All right, let's go ahead and get right into introductions. I'm going to start with Dr. Alex Hubline today. Doctor, would you mind introducing yourself, your company, and a little bit about why we're here today? That'd be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Sherman. So I'm Alex Hubline. I work for a company called NetSurate. We're kind of an interesting company, managed service provider, cybersecurity, and in the last year or so, we've really gotten into delivering AI capabilities to our customers. So thrilled to be here, Sherman. I think this is going to be a great discussion.
All right, thank you very much. All right, and then we've got an executive from Microsoft here, Andrew Bowe. Andrew, would you mind introducing yourself and your role?
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Andrew Bowe. I'm the Director of Partner Strategy worldwide for the SMB customer segment. So I pretty much align with all of you, and really interesting topic. I love the go bag. That's fascinating. I'm not sure it's the message we want to send, but it's super fun. So the best way to think of me is I connect with everything that really touches SMBs, from partner program strategy. People are pretty familiar with Microsoft, but everything through specialization, solution partner designations. And AI is just this massive thing that we created like last week. And suddenly everybody wants to talk about it. So really looking forward to the discussion. I think there's a lot of cool things we can do. And there's just so much absolutely exciting stuff happening. So good to meet everyone.
All right, fantastic. Now, please also, if you have some questions, go into the Q&A, or not Q&A, but the actual, and my team will moderate it, okay, to see if we can maybe bring that into the discussion if you got something that's pertinent to there. Also, we have about 4 polls today, and we're not going to publish who says what or who, whatever you pick on that, but we certainly would really appreciate it if you could go ahead and click on that because it kind of gives us feedback, right? Like, what are you doing? How are you doing things? And they're not meant to pin you down on any type of decision or whatnot. But if you could do that, that'd be great. All right. Hey, so let's kick it off. Perfect timing too. I'm 6 minutes in. This is what I said I was going to do because we do have about 13 questions that we want to get into. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with Alex. As we talked about, we kind of set the stage. AI is man, it's sucking the wind out of everything, right? And we're talking about it, right, with everybody. And let me ask you this. What do you see as the reason customers are integrating AI into their business over the past year?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and sort of the way we view it is you can kind of categorize this into sort of three categories. One reason they're doing it is to improve personal productivity. So how do I make the individuals in my company more productive and better at what they already do day to day, right? And so that's where you see technologies like Copilot really coming to bear, right? Where I can go out, I can draft emails, I can make my PowerPoints look better and more creative. I can do a lot of things that enhance sort of my day-to-day workflow. So that's kind of category one. The second category is what I'll call team or department or company level initiatives, right? So you'll have situations where now I'm interested in making whole groups of people more productive, or taking business processes and automating those business processes to make them easier for humans, so humans aren't having to do as much of the grunt work and the drudgery and everything else. And then also to provide those bigger level data insights. So being able to reason across both structured data, which is what we're pretty good at reasoning across, but also adding the unstructured data elements of this in there. So being able to reason, and if you look at unstructured data, it represents 80 to 90% of the data that most companies have. It's not in a database. It's not always in a format that's highly structured. So how do I reason across the structured data and the unstructured data I have in my organization to give me better insights? And then I think the third sort of category or main reasons we're seeing people incorporate AI into their businesses is to provide competitive differentiation. Beyond just, hey, I need to make my people more productive, or I need to automate some processes. How do I use this technology to give me a competitive edge out in the marketplace with new capabilities that I've written off a long time ago because I didn't think they were possible, or I wrote them off because I said, gosh, I'd have to apply an army of human beings to go do this. So I'm not even going to do it. I can't make it cost effective. But now that I can make it cost effective, I can apply an army of agents to some of these categories of problems. Now I can bring entirely new capabilities to my business, and hopefully those are differentiating capabilities. They're not just sort of how do I make people more productive, but how do I give myself new capabilities that will help me outcompete the others in the marketplace that I have. So those are kind of the three broad categories: sort of personal productivity, that team, department, company level productivity, automation, and insights, and then kind of that third category, which is really emerging right now, which is how do I give my organization entirely new capabilities to go out and compete better in the market?
I love it. That's a really good, concise answer there. Andrew, from the partner perspective or from Microsoft's perspective, what are you seeing, as the reasons they're integrating AI?
So we're seeing a lot, and I want to kind of echo. I like the way Alex framed that. That's great, and we're seeing everything across the board. Where we're seeing partners that are really embedded with a customer that has a particular challenge. Maybe they just haven't been able to put enough bodies on a problem, or maybe this is a capability that they wish they had, and they're going to their partner and saying, "Hey, can you get us there?" So we're seeing partners really want to explore across all three of those formats. And the other thing we're seeing that we really didn't expect, quite frankly, is we're seeing managed service providers that have a bunch of customers in one segment that are starting to work with these language models and build solutions for customers and really realize that I can scale this across all my customers. I can really transition to becoming more of an ISV than an MSP. And once I built this IP, once I built this language model, and I've vectored across it, I can really take this forward. So we're seeing a lot of that. But I think the biggest thing we're seeing right now is just a massive, massive hunger for knowledge from partners, really in all segments. But where we're really seeing partners drive is in the SMB segment versus enterprises that, they're really smart and they have huge IT departments and they know where they want to go. So in a lot of ways, I think partners are leading the charge in ways that we didn't expect. I mean, without getting into solutioning, but the uptake we've had in our partner skilling, in our AI development platforms, it has just been astounding for us. So the answer is really not one particular thing yet, but it's still starting to find its directionality.
Yeah, I think one small little anecdotal thing that I've seen, what I think is great with this whole, I think, is cleaning up SharePoint. I mean, we used to do audits on SharePoint files, and you'd see like 368,000 SharePoint files. 98% have not been seen in the last 90 days, right? But what this is doing is helping us kind of clean up some SharePoint and actually be able to get better decisions and data from certain areas that we can now actually do that. I know that's a crawl and a lot of giddy ups, with a lot of partners and customers. I got all these files. What am I going to do with them? Data and governance, right? Let me ask you this. Back to Alex. Assumptions. You guys have now seen it for a year. We've all seen it. What are some of the assumptions that customers are making around AI?
Yeah, it's really funny that you asked that, Sherman, because I think there's a couple different categories of customers we deal with. So some of the assumptions that we see are there's one category of customers that we talk to that really just don't know what's possible with AI. They have some notion of it. They say, oh, maybe it could do this or maybe it could do that, but they really don't know. So they're thinking of AI in a little box, right? And the reality is the technology is much, much more expansive than that. So with those customers, it's kind of like they're assuming that it can't really do as much as it can. They've seen some of the videos and they see things that show them how they can use AI in very, what I'll call, almost trivial circumstances, but they don't realize how far we've come in the last year. If you look at where we're at today versus a year ago in terms of the reasoning capabilities of these large language models, they've grown exponentially in power. So that's kind of the first one. They just don't know what's possible, right? The second group on the other end of the spectrum is they think it's magic. They'll come to you with use cases like, well, first of all, I wanted to read Andrew's mind, and then based on reading his mind, so they have sort of these, I think, overinflated expectations of what AI can do. And then there's kind of folks in the middle that I think have a balanced view of it. They have a fairly good idea of what AI can do, and they have a reasonably good idea of what it can't do right now. But the problem is it's changing so fast. Monthly, this is changing. Every month we come out with new models, new capabilities. So you can't blame people for being a bit confused as to what the capabilities are and what they're not. So part of what we do is we really sit down with them, our customers, and we try to guide them in terms of choosing the right use cases. So for instance, there are people that think, I'll use AI for this very, very deterministic process that needs to be 100% correct. And we tell them that is a terrible use case for AI. If you need it to be 100% correct, if you need it to be completely deterministic, you're using the wrong technology, right? But if 90% correct and 90% deterministic is good enough for you, fantastic. AI is a great choice. So it's walking through things like that, really getting them into the right use cases so that they're not making assumptions about, oh, this thing can do things that it can't do, or this I don't even know what it can do. So we spend a lot of time doing sort of showing them use cases, showing them things that it's good at, showing them some things it's not good at, and then leaving it up to their imagination to say, oh, you know what, I could use this to automate my invoice processing application or whatever it is. So that's kind of the stratification that we see out there in terms of assumptions. They're really all over the place.
And then from a partner perspective, I'm sure assumptions have changed a lot, Andrew, in the past year. What are your thoughts?
Really what we're seeing still is people are a little all over the place. And I mean, I think you have the the business process use case, almost a personal assistant type co-pilots on one side. And then on the other side, you have the business applications and what am I going to dig into and learn? So to me personally, I like to see partners just ingesting this information and deciding, hey, this is where I want to hover, and this is how I want to build a go-to-market solution for my customers across different scenarios. But I don't know that I've quite seen partners locking in on this is exactly where I want to go. I really want to get deep in Azure AI Studio, and I'm going to build these things for everyone. But it's still for us, Ben, a little bit of a mixed bag.
I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, you and I talked, it was about 8 months ago. I think one of the comments you made to me is like, Sherman, we were talking about this. You're like, do you think we're out innovating our partners? I'm like, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. We're also trying to figure this out. But you have to, right? You have to. I'm going to skip the next two just because I want to get into, I think it was really a meat one here is on the AI workloads. Alex, you guys are doing great with that, right? Going out to market with AI. What are the AI workloads that you're seeing being adopted across industry from your perspective? And then I'll go to Andrew from the partner perspective.
Yeah, so we really see 2 or 3 different types of workloads. So one workload is around, I'd like to automate some processes that I have. These processes are very time consuming. They're very error prone. They're very difficult. They take up a lot of time and they're very expensive for me right now. So how do I automate those processes, but do it in a very intelligent way? So I don't have to pull people into the decision-making on a lot of the steps within these processes. So that's a big one. Being able to sort of shorten the time it takes for business processes to execute, to do them more cost effectively. We see that one over and over and over again. And the ability to reason at each point within a workflow. So it's not just about, I've defined the workflow and it's supposed to go this way, but being able to make within those individual steps within a business process, being able to make some very intelligent, very human-like decisions based on parameters that they're passed, right? So that's a big one. The second one, and we kind of touched on it earlier, was this notion of being able to reason across all my data. It's, we've done a pretty good job over the last 20, 30, 40 years of dealing with highly structured data that lives in relational databases. We can run queries, we can generate reports, we can get dashboards built. But now it's about being able to reason across not only that data, but also this massive amount of unstructured data that's within organizations. So PDFs, different types of documents, drawings, diagrams, etc. And being able to gain insights across all my data, not just 10% of my data or 20% of my data. So we see that one also being a very, very big one. And then I think a third category that we're seeing, and it kind of falls into the process automation, but being able to put intelligent agents into place that can not just execute a business process, but be able to react to conditions that are happening proactively. So if they're seeing things that are happening within the business, being able to not just react to them, but proactively go out and make decisions, send emails to people when they see that something is happening within a certain part of their business. Give them that kind of capability. And I think that third part is really where we're starting to see more and more interest, right? How do I create these semi-autonomous intelligent agents? And that could be a chatbot on my website that helps people choose the right set of products based on some very complex logic, but that logic gets a lot easier with AI. It can be making recommendation engines, things like that take all that data and then are able to execute as an agent to help their customers out, help their suppliers, help their partners out. So those are some of the workloads that we're seeing beyond sort of the, I want to make my individual people more productive. I think that's kind of a base case.
Excellent. And Andrew, what are your thoughts on that?
Can you repeat the question? I was listening intently to Alex's answer. I got to remember where we started here.
No. What are the AI workloads that you're seeing adopted or being adopted across industry from the partner perspective? Like you're seeing a little bit different viewpoint.
Yeah, a little. So from the partner perspective, everyone really led out with co-pilots, right?
Yeah.
And then what I'm seeing is companies like you all really start to get consultative with their businesses. And I'll go into one example that kind of blew my mind. And we heard this from a partner the other day. There was an HVAC company, and they talked to them about AI and immediately got shut down. And this was a company that had about 600 techs in the field. And they're like, I have no flipping clue what I would do with AI. Like, go away. And they came back and they thought about it, and they basically built a model where text could ask in natural language format about parts or components. So AI would basically look at the service history of that customer, understand everything that was on premise with that customer, the parts, the SKUs, the product codes. So the tech could just ask in natural language, hey, I need a part for X. And instantly it was there. They estimate this is saving each one of those techs about 5 hours a day of sitting in their truck researching manuals. The operational efficiency it's driving is just absolutely mind-boggling. But what we're really seeing with partners is partners coming in and understanding their customer's business and being consultative and helping guide these conversations. And co-pilots are one side of this. I definitely understand it, but really digging in to understand how they can help find efficiencies where customers aren't really quite asking for it yet. And I think that's where we're seeing partners lead and go forward. So I don't know that there's one particular workload. Co-pilots would probably be the one I would say is the first, but across the other generative AI models, I think we're seeing like a lot of interest based on where they want to go with their customers.
Excellent response. And I think Eric Van Bibber actually had a good one, request for simply categorizing data. I believe that that's actually a pretty big one. Alex, would you agree with that? That it's actually a pretty big, it may be buried inside of what you were talking about, but categorizing data, I think governance, right? That's a big one.
Yeah, no, categorizing data, summarizing things for people. And you know, like Andrew's use case there, we've done something similar within our company, right? We have lots of information about our customers, right? As an MSP, we have ticket history, we have call history, we have configuration information, very, very structured stuff. But what we found is that a lot of that information about a customer, the contextual information, lives in the heads of certain people. So how do you get what's in their heads down on paper easily? And then how do you have the AI reason across both the structured data that we get from our remote monitoring and management systems, that's called ticket history, et cetera? How do you give that person context so they know, hey, this Sherman guy is calling in. He's got a problem with his printer, but Sherman has a problem with his printer like every other month, right? Because Sherman can't work out how to change the ink cartridges or whatever in his printer, right? So they can get this contextual information very, very rapidly through a natural language interface. Tell me all about Sherman so I know who I'm talking to, and I can really get down to the root causes of the problems that Sherman is having, right? So that's a great use case where you're taking a lot of this very unstructured data. And what we have is we just have people record themselves, just tell us everything you know about this customer. And so they'll just record that. We'll take AI, we'll transcribe it, and then we'll put it into the AI system, and then have it reason across all of this just stream of consciousness information that gives it context combined with the structured data that we have about that customer as well. And that's very, very powerful if you can do that.
I want to chime in on one thing, just because I'm seeing this in the chat. And I think one thing I'm hearing from customers more than partners is the evolution of the human being within their company. And, you know, I think Alex just put it perfectly. There's so many people in these organizations where if we could just download their head, right? We're not creating an AI replication of them. We're saying, hey, how do we structure your business processes, or how do we take everything that you know and make it make sense? It doesn't replace you. It's like force augmentation for everything that you know to make it evergreen. And you know, we went back to some assumptions, and I do think that's one I get a lot. Like, is this trying to, even at the tech level, even, you know, within AWS, GCP, Microsoft, people are like, hey, is AI going to take our jobs? I mean, no, Copilot's a Copilot, man. It's in the seat next to you. It's never going to replace exactly what you do. But somebody who uses Copilot better and understands this better might. So it's a good time to be digging into this technology and understanding how it can make you better and how you as partners can help your customers be better.
So, it's interesting about when you talk about the chatbot. So 3 years ago, we got the contract with Microsoft to do all the Q&A for the virtual live AI sessions, like how to get your AZ900, right? And there was 1,000 to 1,500 people on these sessions, and our job was to do Q&A. So we get like 50 questions like a minute. It was crazy, right? And did my team know everything there was to do with AZ900, AI900, MS900? Do we know? No. So what I did, I actually created a chatbot. His name is Cortez with language understanding. And we fed in everything that we could under that. This was 4 years ago. And we used that to answer a lot of the questions because we just didn't have time. But it's crazy how, some of that stuff was kind of out there. We're kind of doing it, but that is a use case that could be pertinent today. It's how do you make things more efficient? How can you possibly answer 100 questions, right, in 30 seconds? No, you can't, so how do you do that? So, all right. So actually, I'm going to go back to Andrew here. Our next one is the skepticism. So, what are you seeing about like how customers are handling skepticism of AI when being brought solutions by potential partners?
A lot of it's around cost. I think that's one of the first things is really, how is this going to help my business? How much is it going to cost? Am I really going to see the benefit from it? And I think that's the extreme importance of having this consultative relationship and doing these envisioning sessions. And I came up in a call the other day. Tokens are really, really hard, a token-based model to predict and have governance on. And we're growing and we're evolving. Everybody's growing and evolving and learning, right? And if we were sitting here having the same conversation a year from now, I think it would be a radically different conversation, right? But right. For everyone, I mean, the long tail of customers, not even the body of customers right now, still have a lot of skepticism, and we're seeing that pushback. Like, is this delivering the benefit? I think in certain cases, AI is working so well. People don't really understand how much it's already augmenting what they do. And even like myself at Microsoft, in my role, there's a corpus of information that I'm able to just go search with Copilot. But I know in certain departments, they've actually searched and gotten rid of like 20 or 30,000 documents that are just outdated, that are no longer relevant. And people were searching and finding this information. So some of the skepticism is, hey, how are you containing this? How are you controlling this? How will it provide benefit? And it's just incorporating that and learning and again, continuing to evolve with it.
That's great. That's great. Alex, what are your thoughts on the skepticism from the street? You're in there.
Yeah, so I mean, we're seeing similar things. We're also seeing some fear. And I think we've seen some of the fear in the chat here, right? There's this fear, particularly in people-based businesses, right? In people-based businesses, I think there's this assumption and there's this fear that AI is going to come along and try to replace people. And they have this very strong view that their people are not replaceable by AI. And I think for the most part, that's true. So I think some of the skepticism, some of the fear that we get is more around what is this going to do to my organization? What is it going to do to the personal touch of my organization? Whether that is a relationship with my customers, relationships with my suppliers, my partners, etc. So I think there's this fear of losing the human element, the human touch to what they do. And I think that's, and it's a very valid concern. You could certainly use AI to do those things. The same way that we saw, we've seen this over the years in customer support, for instance, where you've lost some of the human touch. Now you're interacting over text messages versus talking to a human being, right? Yes, it's way more efficient for me to be able to send a text message to my airline that says, hey, I'd like you to go change my flight. But you miss that personal touch. And so for every benefit that you get out of AI, I think it's important to also recognize that there could be some costs. And I think that's some of the skepticism and fear that we're seeing, is that if you remove the human element to certain processes, you may get more efficient, but the quality of those interactions may decline if you're not careful.
I love that.
Can I add one thing? There was one skepticism thing, and it just triggered. This is something I've run into. I think we see this with companies. Sometimes they don't want to know what they don't know now. And so if it's like a security, if it's how much basically how much PII do we have out there hiding everywhere? If they go in and they start doing data discovery and remediation, I think sometimes they're a little bit hesitant to unpack how the scope of what their problem might be. And I don't know if this is particularly an AI thing, but I think AI with its ability to vector across data brings this to light for a lot of companies, and it pretty much shows in stark relief. Okay, we thought we have a problem. Now we definitely know we have a problem with data.
Yeah, and I think that really is I think everyone knows they have a problem with a lot of data that they've accumulated, but it's like, clean up your room, Johnny. Does Johnny clean up his room? Not all the time, right? All right. So to kind of transitioning just a little tiny bit, we talked about skepticism. We talked about workloads that are being adopted across industry. Alex, what are some of the common workloads that you are seeing customers starting their AI journey with, corporate versus personal? I think we talked about that in our pre-call.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're starting to see, I think when you look at where people want to start their journey, very, very few of our customers are like, yeah, let's jump into the pool with both feet, right? They want to start with something that is relatively, I wouldn't say simple, but not super complex, right? So we try to go into our envisioning and our art of the possible sessions with them, and we try to steer them towards use cases that are relatively easy to implement, that we can build something within 90 days. That's our goal when we go into an engagement with the customers. Can we get a minimum viable solution out the door and into their hands within 90 days? And if you pick the right use cases, you absolutely can do that, right? Now, is it going to have all the bells and whistles they want? Is it going to do everything they want? Probably not. And then we iteratively evolve through that with our customers, right? So we're seeing a lot of, like I said earlier, we're seeing a lot of organizations interested in process automation, but intelligent process automation, not just, let me take this existing process I have and just make it go a little faster. How do I take the existing processes I have and imbue some intelligence in them? So not only are they faster processes, not only are they cheaper processes to execute, but can we make them better than what we're doing today? So that's one. So the process automation piece, we see a ton of that. There's a very clear return on investment on that sort of thing, right? The second one that we see is sort of the ability to take dashboarding to a whole new level. So you see a lot of companies, they'll have dashboards, they'll have their nice graphics, and it shows them the same information day after day, week after week. But there's no way to interact with that dashboard usually and say, hey, this is my sales dashboard, but how many of my sales reps met their quota last quarter by more than 20%, but less than 50%, and they sell this particular line of products for me, so on and so forth, and be able to do that in a natural language way, right? Just to simply type that in or speak that into a system and have it generate the appropriate response, right? So it goes from this sort of static presentation or relatively static presentation of data to this very dynamic inquiry-based dialogue that you're having with these machines. So that's sort of what I mean by reasoning across lots of different data sources, not just the stuff that can go in a dashboard, but the things that aren't easily accessible, that are unstructured data that are out there. Could be legal documents, could be corporate policies, could be whatever. So we see that one as well. And then we're seeing sort of the third big category is what I'll call the chat bots. And I hate that term because it sounds so childish, but whatever. These intelligent agents that their customers or their partners or their employees or whomever can interact with to be able to get information out of them without having to involve a human, right? I don't want to have my very valuable people answering the same question over and over and over again to whomever it is, right? I want, for instance, we've built an internal HR chatbot that's in Teams. You go to Teams, you say, what's our leave policy in this particular region? And it just goes through, it looks through all the PDF documents that we have about our HR policies, shoots them back. I don't want that person calling our HR people asking that question, right? That's just a waste of their time to answer the same types of questions over and over again. So we see a lot of that happening as well.
Excellent. And Andrew, how would seeing from partners, what would you say are some of the common workloads that you're seeing most customers starting with?
I think the ones I see a lot of people, and I see a lot of partners wanting to delve into are the relatively simple ones. We'll say the chat bots, basically web assists, copilots to help phone operators or people that do highly repetitive tasks find information really quickly. And those are the relatively micro or small language model type apps that can be built. So I think those are where we see customers recognizing their first need. And I'm not out in the field the same way Alex is, but this is the feedback I get from partners that, generally speaking, this is like the first bell that's going off with their customers is like, hey, can you help us with this? Can you make this work better on our website? Can you help our sales team find these resources a little bit more quickly? Things of that nature, but basically sort of the I would call it the administrative assistant type of use cases.
Okay. And let me go into the next one with that, because I think that kind of really segues into our next question, is really about, is SMB a real target? What are people dabbling with? What are they starting with? Is it, and I know we were just talking, is it a target? I mean, or is this just corporate and enterprise?
I didn't think it was, but you guys are blowing our doors off. I mean, we literally, we had a conversation about a year ago. And so Microsoft plans everything on solution plays, and Satya comes in and says, hey, I want these to be our priorities for the year. And then we sort of evolve what our technical capabilities are with customer scenarios, and where they overlap is what we would call a solution play. And, we design everything around that. And then we actually take those solution plays, and then, to give logic to the model, we cascade them, enterprise, majors, SMC, SMB. And I remember we were looking, and there was a conversation, and I was wrong as well. And I just didn't expect SMBs to go out and build their own copilots. What I didn't realize is MSPs were going to go crazy on them, right? Especially with PTU and CSP. Quite frankly, companies are they're diving in there and they're knocking on doors. So we're seeing the uptake actually be exceptionally strong in SMB. I can't mention numbers, but we'll just say incredible growth in SMB, and it's sort of fun because when we go to leadership calls, and we have a budget on what we expect certain workloads to do across segment. And when you get to the SMB slide, there's a little AI thing that's supposed to have kind of relatively nothing in its anecdotal workload, and it's always green, and it's freaking 3 inches above the chart on where it's supposed to be. So it's always kind of fun to go through that until they revise my budget. But for right now, you guys have me so far in the green, you can't imagine.
That's awesome. Now, and Alex, what are your thoughts? Because you're from the field perspective, SMB. Are you selling a lot more into that? Are you selling into corporate? Where are you landing?
Yeah, no, we see the SMB market as maybe actually the best market for this sort of thing, and I'll tell you why. And I've worked for lots of big companies like Microsoft. I won't mention them, but many of Microsoft's competitors, right? But really big organizations, and I've also worked for very small companies. And if you go look at the SMB market and you really boil it down, one of the biggest advantages that small and medium businesses have is their ability to move quickly and their ability to be very agile. Right? That's the hard part about working for an enterprise company, right? We've got to have 12 committee meetings on this and have meetings for the pre-meeting, for the meeting, for the post-meeting that you have, right? So I see that as a huge asset. Usually small and medium businesses, they have competitors that are larger and more well-heeled than they are. They've got more money to invest in these sorts of things, but it takes them forever. So I think when you see very rapidly changing technology markets, that are relatively easy to access, right? Just about anyone can write a prompt, right? Writing code is hard. Writing prompts is much, much easier. So the ability for us to go out and enable these small and medium businesses to use this technology and use it quickly and adapt to it as it's evolving, and it's evolving at just light speed. It's unbelievable. Even if you rewind 6 months ago to where we're at today, it is night and day. We've gone from, first and second grade reasoning skills to PhD level reasoning skills in 6 months, right? So you start looking at that and you say the SMB market is actually very, very ripe for using AI and technologies like AI, because they can move fast, because they can make decisions quickly, and because they can pivot much, much more rapidly than enterprises can. So we love this market. We think it is absolutely a huge opportunity for the SMB market.
And we run events for our partners, so we do a lot of events. We've done it for you guys, yeah. Alex, I'm not going to get into. I don't need a testimonial here, but we've seen a lot of great attendance. People are still trying to figure it out. We're running 2 or 3 of these a month, and they're great attendance. They're really trying to figure this out, which is great because there's a temperature, right? I think when Azure came out, there's a temperature behind that. Well, what exactly am I going to? So people want to know, right? So educating them, I think, is really important. With that being said, I think this is a great one. When discussing, this will go to Alex here. When discussing with your customers, how big a consideration is short-term ROI for investing in data and AI solutions? Is that a big part of the topic? Are you what are some of the things that are coming from that?
So that a great question, because if every business decision you make, you want it to have a positive ROI. If I'm going to invest money in something, whether it's technology or anything else, I want to see a positive return on investment out of that at some point, right? So what I'd say is that's still important, but it's much less important and much less at the forefront than it was a year ago. Right. So let's take business process automation. We've been doing that forever, right? There's a million iterations of stuff over the last 30 years. If you were to go to a customer and say, we're gonna automate this business process for you a year ago, they just said, okay, great. What's the return on investment? You're gonna have to come back and show me the specific return on investment on or a set of business processes. Nowadays with the AI, the way we're approaching it with our customers is, yes, you're going to get an ROI. In fact, we will guarantee you a positive ROI on the engagements that we go out with. But it's less of a factor, honestly. They're not quite as concerned. They're more interested in, I'd like to try this out and see what's possible, because it's not just about taking that old business process and automating it, or this workflow that I have and automating it. It's, can I make it more intelligent? Can I make it better? Can I use this as a catalyst to rethink the way I execute on some of my business processes? And if you look at the capabilities that we have today, they're emerging so rapidly. And I think somebody just put in the chat, the OpenAI O1 preview model is unbelievable. Like I've been working with AI. I studied AI as a computer science student, ages ago when it couldn't do anything. And if you go look at what that thing can do, I did not think we were going to get there in my lifetime. Certainly not within the next 10 years. So we've made some major breakthroughs just recently. This thing was just launched, 3 weeks ago. So the ability to go out, so they want to see what's possible. They want to try this thing out. They want to know, and that's why we start with small engagements. We start with this, let's get this thing out in 90 days and then let's iterate through it together. And that's actually how we sell it, right? We tell them, look, this may not produce a return on investment in 90 days. We will tell you it will produce a positive return on investment within a year. But we've got kind of that, that flex and that adaptability to really work very closely with our customers. And they're giving us the time. Whereas a year or 2 years ago, they'd be like, no, I want the ROI. I want it on this date. You better have positive ROI within 90 days or I'm going to be upset with you, right? So I think just the mindset has shifted. It's still important, but it's not the dominating variable in the equation anymore.
Okay, and that's good. I'm going to go to Andrew about the same thing, kind of the perspective. But before I do, there's two things. We have Karen had a great question, but it's got multiple questions in there. And if we have some time, maybe we'll touch on that. Otherwise, I'll talk with Andrew and Alex to make sure that we get you a proper response on that, because it's really a great question. I don't want to discount it, but timing wise, we may not have the ability to answer the 3 questions inside the question. So, but Karen, great one. Thank you so much for that. And we'll definitely make sure that we help you out with that. The other thing too is we're actually going to be doing some quarterly not briefings, but quarterly roundtables with Andrew and other Microsoft executives coming up. We were talking about that. If you're interested in being involved, go ahead and just go in the chat window and type in thumbs up. I would like to be involved, or asked to be included on that. We try to get 10 to 15 partners, but the main thing is making sure that you come with questions and you want to actually provide some content, right? Because this helps us influence decisions that are made from the top. So let us know if you want to be just give us a thumbs up and we'll include you on that. All right, back to you, Andrew. ROI, are you getting that? Is it there's headwinds, or the partners telling you there's headwinds based on ROI discussions? Or what are your thoughts?
Well, partners always tell me there's headwinds on something. So it's a big part of the relationship. I'm probably Alex is a little closer to that. The only thing I would say is that one thing I've gotten from partners is that initial customer engagements are not necessarily looking at ROI as much as it boils down to ROI at a tertiary level, but it's really solving a gap where they just can't put enough bodies on a problem, or it's hard to put the right body. So it's really, can we use this to close this hole we have? And yes, that works to some ROI in the future. I'm really interested when people start looking at a system that's running well and say, but we can make this run a lot better. And so I think that's the evolution of conversations that Alex is probably having now with customers versus, when Copilots first came out and said, hey, we can't train people fast enough, or we can't make this work. So I think everything has a positive, not everything, but I think generally speaking, there's no doubt that ROI is out there, but I don't really see that as the blocker. Or that's not something I've heard from partners or customers that, hey, this just isn't worth it. I don't want my company to run better. I don't want to do this better. I don't want to be more efficient. So right now, I haven't gotten that feedback, except for, there was a comment in the chat just about security and other things that come into it. There can be some additional expenses that sort of creep in because of this. That's a different conversation that comes up. And then I'm going to steal one moment back. Hey, we had a meeting with Alex and some other partners yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which. It was really fantastic. So the quarterly roundtables that Sherman mentioned, man, I'm really looking forward to those. I know we do partner advisory councils at Microsoft, and it's a curated group of partners, and it's good feedback. But I think to have something that's hosted by Sherman, where we get to come in and everybody gets to really kind of be themselves and say what they want, and it's in a non-Microsoft forum. I'm really looking forward to those. So if you do have the opportunity to lean in, please do. It's great learning. I'm gonna bring a couple other people from Microsoft, and hopefully we can just be a fly on a wall and suck up as much knowledge and insight as we can from y'all.
We really can affect change. I mean, there's stuff that Andrew and I talked about last year that it was implemented. We were able to move fast. Microsoft is the aircraft carrier, but sometimes we can ask them to put all the engines on and actually move this thing. We can. So awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay, now I think to the meat here, how are you going to market, Alex? Small packages, try before you buy, jump starts, envisioning sessions, financial considerations, code writing, prompt. What's going on here? What are you doing to go to market?
Yeah, so the way we go to market, a couple of ways. One is when it comes to sort of the personal productivity aspects of AI with Copilot specifically, we do a fair bit of Copilot enablement and training for our customers, right? Going out there, teaching them how to use it, but not just, hey, here's all the stuff it can do. but showing them some very real world examples of how they can improve their own personal productivity with it, right? So that's one aspect of our go-to-market. Now we have another offering that we call Innovate X. And Innovate X is kind of interesting. It is an offering that is designed to go in and tackle a set of challenges for a customer. So you can almost think of it like a consulting engagement, but we try, like I said, to choose use cases within that consulting engagement that we can hit on in the first 90 days. We sell this as a subscription though, which is odd to a lot of people, right? They're like, you're gonna sell a consulting engagement as a subscription, where it's a fixed monthly price for us to come in and do this. And it turns out that model works really well in the AI space because it is changing so rapidly. So for instance, we may go build a Copilot or an agent or a set of agents for you, a set of process workflow automations, right? But here's the thing, the capabilities of these models, like we talked about, are just expanding exponentially. And believe it or not, the price is going down tremendously. So for instance, you take the new OpenAI o1 model, phenomenal reasoning capabilities, almost, dare I say this, superhuman reasoning capabilities. And I'm not joking when I say that. It can solve problems that everybody in this phone would have a very, very difficult time solving, right? But if you take, for instance, the o1 Mini, it's an order of magnitude less expensive, and it's useful for 90% of the use cases that you would use the full model for o1. So it's not just about building these things; it's about workflows. And we use GPT-4 model. Right? Then 6 weeks later, GPT-4 Mini comes out, or o1 Mini comes out. Order of magnitude cheaper. Guess what? We're going to go back. We're going to test that workflow. We're going to see if o1 Mini can do enough and do it well enough to where it doesn't matter if we use o1 or o1 Mini. Right? Now I've just reduced your inferencing cost by an order of magnitude, right? So there's this idea of not just building these things, but supporting them and continuously optimizing them that gives us that ability to sell this in a subscription model. So that's proving very popular with the customers that we have today.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Just getting pearls from Alex here today. He's dishing. I love it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Andrew, from what you're seeing?
I'm gonna I don't know if I'm gonna echo Alex as much as I thought he just kind of hit the nail on the head there. I liked it quite a bit. I don't know that I have a lot to add to that, but the subscription.
Well, and I made that whole process sound easy. It's not, right? It's not easy to build these things. It's not easy to support them. It's not easy to optimize them. So I don't want everybody to think, oh, this is easy. We just write some prompts and call it a day. It's very complex. And I think, one of the other things that we're seeing, Sherman, and one of the other things we talked about is this notion of, we're also seeing, and we're using this ourselves, we're seeing, particularly with the new o1 model, the ability to write code about as well as humans can write code.
Yeah.
And that's really important, right? I spent most of my career, and I've been doing this for about 35 years, as a software engineer, right? I'm a computer scientist by trade and training. I've written millions of lines of code in my life, and it's hard, right? Writing code is difficult, but sometimes that's the only way to accomplish the task. So the ability to not only build complex prompts and do that the right way, but also to generate code that can go off and execute in an environment to accomplish some of the steps in what you're trying to do. Very, very, very important. And so we do a mixture of that, right? We do a lot of prompt engineering. And when I say prompt engineering, I mean, our CTO, he wrote a prompt a couple weeks ago, and this thing's like 10 pages long. Right? I call it the mother of all prompts, right? And so what you're seeing is these prompts are actually becoming the source code. Right? Yeah. If you create these prompts in the right way and you have expertise in doing it, it is very hard to develop this expertise. But when you can create the mother of all prompts, you can do astonishing things without having to write code. Now, sometimes, again, we have to write code, but nowadays, honestly, we just tell the machine to write the code, and it writes the code, and it does a brilliant job of it. Does it get it 100% right every time? No, but I will tell you, it's remarkable the capabilities that we've just seen in the last 2 or 3 months. It's just gone up exponentially, our ability to do that. So that mixture of workflow, that mixture of being able to create these very complex but very well thought through prompts, and then having the system generate code. It can generate API calls for us. We can feed it Swagger documents and say, build me API calls to interface into this system. And it can build those API calls now, write the code to do it. So integration becomes easier. That gives us access to more data. And then we can take data that we're getting from humans. And again, we just have the humans talk. We literally get them on a call like this. We say, just tell us about the business problem you're trying to solve. Tell us about your business. And we can take all of that, transcribe it, and then we feed it into the context window of these large language models. And the results are phenomenal if you know how to do it the right way. So it's we see just almost unlimited potential here going forward.
So that blows me away, man. That was
my answer was enablement.
So I know that sounded like hyperbole, but it's amazing.
We're just trying to put this capability in partners' hands, but Alex was just a little better than mine.
All right, so man, I tell you what, this is probably one of the best bumps we've had in years. This has been really fantastic. We got 3 minutes left. I want to give let's just give back to Andrew. Final thoughts, just maybe something that you want to share with the group, share with the partners, and then go back to you, Alex, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, man, I relevant to this topic or all up. I think I'd go all up. I think I'm excited to see the change that's coming with Microsoft and partners and things that we have in the pipeline that we're landing and bringing forward. I think it's been a lot of fun to be in my role and work with you all, and also come from a partner into Microsoft and get a perspective of both. That was really a shock. And like you said, it's like turning the enterprise, but sometimes like you can move fast. So it's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to everything we hope we can deliver in the next year for everybody, especially along AI. And Alex said it, things are changing so fast. They're changing so fast internally. Like we're trying to keep up with ourselves, and then trying to make sure we structure that and organize it in such a way that we can get it into your hands and bring value to you, and then bring incentives and programs and accelerators along to help you create pipeline and move that pipeline, whether it's, Azure Innovate or all the other basically training and enablement and funding mechanisms that we have. But it's like the wheels are spinning so fast. It's just crazy right now. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks so much for coming today, man. This has really been fantastic. Now, Alex, your last thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I love what Andrew said there. I mean, it's keeping up with this stuff is difficult, and I think Microsoft's doing a great job. And if you think about, there's just, if you try to do this stuff just purely on your own, it's difficult, right? Like I have a very, very powerful laptop, and I have all this stuff running locally, right? And it's really, really cool, but it takes a long time to set up all the infrastructure you need, all of the capabilities you need. So being able to use Copilot Studio and Azure AI Studio, it just makes everything so much easier, right? It lets you dive into this. And I think, going back to that idea of being able to do things quickly, being able to help small and medium businesses build things rapidly, go fast, and be able to pivot when they need to, right? Be able to say, okay, no, this direction isn't working. Let's move down this other direction. It's so much easier if you have a company like Microsoft partnering with Microsoft to be able to give you just those capabilities. Well, I don't have to worry about how this thing runs. I don't have to stand up to large language models. I don't have to do all of this stuff that I have to do if I want to do it myself. It's just, and Andrew, we talked yesterday about some of the accelerators. I think those are so critical, because the more people that we can get this technology in the hands of those people, the better. Because one of the things we like to do is not only build these things for our customers, but teach them how to do it. I know a lot of people said, how do you make money if you do that, Alex? You basically go to the consulting engagement, and then you're going to give your customers the secret sauce behind doing it, right? And we don't have any fears of that at all, because again, it's moving very rapidly. It will continue over the next several years to evolve very, very rapidly. So showing our customers and enabling them to go build these systems themselves turns out to be a great business model, a little bit counterintuitive business model, but that's the direction we're heading in terms of helping them not only hire us to go build these things and support them and all that, but to build them themselves and then be able to run them on the Microsoft suite of tools. It's just, I think it's a great partnership, and there's almost no limit to how much opportunity is out there.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Like, I don't think we even know what we don't know yet about what the opportunity is.
Huge.
Yeah, I first time I've talked in 4 years about this one. So thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate it. This has been awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate your time. We're going to go ahead and land the plane now. Thanks again, everybody. Really, really fantastic event today. And look for our next invite. We've got one more for the rest of the year. We'll talk to you guys in a little bit. But thanks again. Have a great afternoon, a great weekend, and be safe during the hurricane. Hopefully you guys are okay with that. But okay, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Cheers, everyone.